Hi, everyone. Welcome to our last and final plenary for our two-day virtual 40th NAMI Maryland and Annual Conference. Welcome to our last and final plenary for our two-day virtual 40th NAMI. Sorry about that. I'm not sure what people were hearing. It sounded like they were hearing a recording of me. So I'll just continue. My name's Kate Fahrenholt. I'm the Executive Director of NAMI Maryland, and you are indeed at the last final plenary of our 40th annual conference for NAMI Maryland. It's virtual again this year, and we are so pleased that you are here, that you've been able to join us. And I have to say that we've not usually had a final plenary. But when we decided we were going to be able to get this presentation, we thought it would make the perfect finale for our two-day conference. So welcome. And I'm going to just walk right into my notes. This presentation is about the book, NAMI's first ever book, You Are Not Alone, NAMI Guide to Navigating Mental Health with advice from experts and wisdom from real people and families. We have here today Dr. Ken Duckworth, who has been the medical director for NAMI National for longer than I've been involved with NAMI, and I've been involved with NAMI for 25 years. So Ken is an amazing guy, and he had this vision. And we also have with us two NAMI Marylanders, Monique Owens and Sharita Cole-Brown, who are joining us. And Dr. Ken Duckworth will introduce the book, and I will go on mute.
Thank you, Kate, and thanks for staying around for today's talk. I'm happy to report that NAMI does have a book. It's selling extremely well. We made the USA Today bestseller list. NAMI has the copyright of this book, and all royalties are returned to NAMI. This is just and fair because the book is comprised of our community and people near our community who may not know about NAMI yet or doing good work. These Zoom screenshots that my colleague and co-pilot Jordan Miller took are of all the 130 people we interviewed. We asked them what helped them, what made a difference in their family, what helped them personally, when did they first recognize a vulnerability. So I'm going to give you a 10-minute orientation to how the book, why the book, and then I'm going to introduce two remarkable people inside the book who happen to be from Maryland. And we gave a talk today in Illinois. It was two different remarkable people. A talk in Princeton, New Jersey last night, I think. Three different people, and on. All across America, we're having people from the book talk about why they wanted to be in the book, using their names, of course, and what value they hope people get from our project. So let's go to the next slide, please. So you, of course, know what NAMI is, but some people don't. And so occasionally I mention this slide, but I'm showing it to you so you can see more people's pictures in the outline of the slide. Let's go to another slide. If you look at this amount of activity that we do and the number of people that we help, it's almost unimaginable to me that we didn't have a book. I took a class on how to write a book in 17, 18, and 19 with the express purpose of working on this idea. And what I learned is you need to have a platform and a reasonably new idea. This book has both, but look at the platform. Look at what we do. Look at what you do. I mean, it's an incredible portfolio just of programs, classes, and initiatives. This does not include our policy work, creating 988, fighting for early psychosis programs, So you can see how when I wrote up a 60-page proposal for the book, 5 publishers got into a bidding war over our first book. How fun is that? But I think in part it was our platform. And of course, with COVID, mental health became a we thing, not a you thing. And I felt that very directly in my relationship to media calls, which if you want to develop that idea more in the Q&A, we can talk about how I knew this was the moment to crank out the book. Then the fates smiled on me. I was given Jordan Miller by NAMI. I hired a young woman named Alexa who memorized all the transcripts and became an expert in it. And Zoom technology enabled me to interview Kumi McDonald in Hawaii and Monique on the same day in Maryland and send them their quotes. Jordan did all that heavy lifting and say, is this quote okay with you? Because it illustrates a point that could help someone else. Let's go to the next slide, please. The right side of this page, the experience-based evidence, is the secret sauce of the book, that our people have learned things for themselves and their families by living with things. There are 2,000 years of lived experience expertise inside this book. How remarkable is that? And the idea that they have something to teach other people is kind of the cornerstone of the book. Now, on the left side of the page, evidence-based research. I'm not against researchers. In fact, I like them. And I asked researchers to answer the common questions that I get as the NAMI's chief medical officer, having attended dozens of conventions. You know, do I have to take these meds forever? How do you talk to a family member who doesn't want to get help? What is cognitive behavior therapy, or DBT? Is a job of mental health intervention? And I tried to go to the person who developed or invented that particular field, or who was a master of that craft. So Mary Ellen Copeland describes what is the Wellness Recovery Action Plan, for instance. Judith Beck of the Beck Institute explains what cognitive behavior therapy is. I think you get the idea. Alpha Stewart, the first Black psychiatrist in America for the APA presidency, wrote an answer to the question, what if my clinician is unlikely to know who I am or understand my culture? And Dr. Alpha Stewart did a beautiful job of that question. Interestingly, she told me that she would not have been able to write that question 5 years ago, and that she had been thinking about how to deal with that topic. So a lot of things came together for us to have our first book. Go to the next slide, please. Here's a website if you want to see where Jordan and I are sleeping in hotels that are all over America, fighting for exit row seats, hoping for minimal airport delays. We have 77 events. Some are virtual, some are in person. But I'm not exaggerating when I say we've been to Boston, New York, Alaska, Seattle, Denver, Philadelphia, Utah, DC, Princeton, New Jersey. We're going to take a little break and do only virtual events like this one. Then we're going back to Ann Arbor, upstate New York, 5 visits in California. And the idea is to connect with NAMI people across the country and to showcase what they have learned in the presentations. This little website gives you an insight into the stories inside the book tour, and of course, why the book. It's a fun little website if you want to follow along. Where the heck is your chief medical officer and his trusted co-pilot? This is where we are. All right, next slide, please. All right, that guy with the big ears on the left, that kid is me. And this is my little journey. Hopefully those big ears portend for my being a reasonably good listener. My dad was very ill when I was a boy, and very loving and wonderful. My cousins used to ask me how I got the wonderful one. And so, you know, he was wonderful and ill, and we couldn't talk about it, of course. And my family was moved from Philadelphia to Michigan after the police dragged my dad out of the house. I was about 8. We're then in a U-Haul driving from Philadelphia to Michigan, but we couldn't talk about it. And so I, as an 8-year-old boy, I'm like, I think this has something to do with that, but I couldn't articulate it. So I grew up in Michigan. I'm a believer in college football, polite driving, and public education, none of which really fit beautifully with my life in Boston, but I am happy also in Boston. I became a psychiatrist to make sense of what happened to my dad. And I was very curious about what on earth this thing was that would transform his behavior and emotions. He would hear voices. He would spend months at a time at a state hospital in Michigan, not far from me. And I didn't like math. I got into the medical schools that did not require calculus. I never won the science prize. It's a true confession of your chief medical officer. I read history for fun. I keep up with the medical literature to the best of my ability, but I'm not a science kid. So you all know the answer to the question, how does a kid who's not interested in math or science become a doctor? The answer, of course, is love. It's the NAMI answer to everything. Why do we do everything we do? We do it for love. So that's why I became a psychiatrist. And then along the way, I would always go to my local bookstore in Boston and say, why isn't there a book where real people share what they learned and what helped them? And I think, isn't that funny? I like memoirs, about 1,000 memoirs. I don't really like textbooks, but I've written chapters for them. No one really reads textbooks. And so nobody's ever said, Ken, that was the greatest chapter I ever read on engaging the community or something like that. So I wanted a book that brought the best of what's lessons from the memoirs and the practical applications of what's in a textbook, but without technical terms like dopamine or serotonin receptors. People just want to know what would help them and have smart people help them think about it. Let's go to the next page, please. So we interviewed 130 people, about half with a mental health condition, about half families. Many people said I'm in both camps. I think it's important not to get too rigid about how we think about it. 35 frequently asked questions answered by expert in the fields. All proceeds go to NAMI. NAMI has the copyright if you open up the book. So, I was your servant with Jordan to create this book, but it is our book. It's NAMI's book. Next paragraph, next slide, please. All right, so the process was I made it easy for people to get out of the book if they wanted to. I chatted with people. I let them know, the plane's flying. You don't have to share your name and tell your story in a book, because once there's 100,000 of them, it's very difficult to contain that. A few people told me they weren't ready to tell their stories. I said, that's great. Very important that you know that. So I chatted with people. They signed a consent form. Then we did these Zoom interviews, and Jordan shared the quotes that we wanted to use with people, and they approved them. People also self-identified who they were. This is another innovation that we developed. You don't see a lot of this in books. I don't tell people who they are. They tell me who they are. 12 people identified it as Black, 12 as African American, several as Hispanic, some as Latinx, some as Latino. And it's their decision. Asian American, Chinese American. That's completely their decision how they identify themselves. Next. If this was an electoral college, NAMI would have won with almost 500 electoral votes. So we captured 38 states. And you can see, while it's not a perfect representation of America, it's pretty good. 38 states, 11 self-identified race and ethnicities across the spectrums of gender and sexuality, 25 different faith orientations, over 50 occupations, age 16 to 100. One woman reported in her form that she was old as dirt. So I can't really tell you. She might be older than 100. Dirt's pretty old, at least most of it. But it just gives you an idea of the breadth and depth of the people who shared what they have learned in this project. Okay, next paragraph. Next slide. Here's the chapters. Part 1, I try to lay out what we know and what we don't know, what the limits are of science, the value of a diagnosis, but you're not your diagnosis. There's a conversation about co-occurring addiction, substance use, trauma, and children and adolescents, where many of the vulnerabilities begin. Part 2 is reflections from people in the book, what made a difference for them in terms of recovery, peers, how they became advocates. And then part 3 is conversations with families, how the families learn to communicate, how the families learn to advocate. The legal system, the hardest family questions that I've ever been asked at the NAMI conventions, the questions that families really struggle with. And then part 4 are your experts answering common questions. Let's go to the next. These are examples of the players who helped us: the National Institute of Mental Health, the University of Michigan, Stanford, Penn, Columbia, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, the Trevor Project. You get the idea. We tried to go as broad as possible. It is a NAMI book, but it's not only a NAMI book. So Mental Health America's whole diagnostic screening tests, they're in the chapter on diagnosis. And Shatterproof, How to Find Help in Addictions, is a key part of this book as well. So we tried to make it both broad and deep, as Kate mentioned, always an ambitious goal. And I hope you feel when you look at it that we accomplished most of what we set out to do. Next slide, please. Acknowledgements. Look at how many people are on this acknowledgements page. This was a screenshot Jordan took when we were told we had to go from 600 pages to 400 pages by the publisher. So I have the double hands on my head. Jordan has the one hand, and our helper Alexa is just laughing hysterically at the futility of the entire endeavor. We had so many beautiful quotes. It was so painful to cut them. I can't even describe that process. The people in this book are wonderful teachers, and it was very difficult, but we tried to pick the best quotes. From the NAMI staff, look at that list on the left. NAMI alums. I contacted people in the Legends division who had already retired, and I said, could you review this? Could you help me with this piece of history? We have a publisher, Zando. The publisher, Molly Stern, who started Zando, this is her first book. And she had edited Michelle Obama's Becoming, which is a remarkable book, Gone Girl and The Martian. So we have a very real publisher that is in partnership with NAMI. Lisa there on the right reviewed everything and tried to help with writing and coherence. Families and friends who are all in the mental health space, one way or the other, reviewed the chapters and said, I wouldn't emphasize this. I think this should be tightened up a little bit, that sort of thing. What I want to convey is there's one name on the book. Hundreds of people helped with this project. Let's go to the next slide. And here they are. Here are the names of all the lived experience experts who make the book what it is. This is not a usual book where the doctor tells you the way it is. And this is a lived experience book with everyone in the book. We checked the names 17 times so that no one's name is wrong. And next slide. I'm delighted to introduce to you two of those wonderful people in the book. And it's interesting. Sometimes I found people, I'd give a talk at NAMI, Wisconsin. I'd say, anybody want to be in the book, send me your email. Monique and Sharita were kind of ringers in that I saw Sharita Cole Brown in a NAMI video made by Frederick Miggins. And I said, Frederick, who is that? I must talk to her if she's interested. And so Frederick said, oh my God, you have to talk to her. Terry Brister, my friend, the woman who's in charge of programs. I said, let's talk about somebody who's really taken NAMI basics teaching to the next level and NAMI family to family. And she said, you've got to talk to Monique Owens. So I just want to thank you both because you add a lot to the book. You bring out an important perspective. So I'm going to start with you, Sharita. I know you've written a book that's won awards, so you're out there publicly in the world. But why did you want to be in our book, and what do you hope people get from our little NAMI book? You bring out an important perspective. So I'm going to start with you, Sharita. It's won awards, so you're out there publicly in the world. Why did you want to be in our book, and what do you hope people get from our little NAMI book? You bring out an important perspective. So I'm going to start with you, Sharita.
Getting some feedback.
In the world. I don't know what that feedback is. I'll stop talking.
Sharita, can you actually lower your camera audio? Because it sounds like it's playing back from your speakers.
How's that?
I don't know what that feedback is.
How's that?
Looks like it's still echoing.
I lowered it. Is that better?
Camera audio because it sounds like it's playing back from your speakers.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I don't
now
hear
that's
the.
better.
Are we still getting the feedback?
Looks like it's still a little bit, yeah.
I lowered it. Is that better?
Can I suggest something? And this is welcome to the world of technology. My suggestion is perhaps that we take a minute and get Sharita on the phone with her speakers off.
Yeah.
Okay.
How
Does
about
that
we
work?
go to Monique and start the conversation
Exactly.
while you and Sharita work off stage to solve for this.
Perfect.
So Monique, I want to thank you for your participation in the book. I'm really grateful for what you had to teach and what you had to share. So tell me a little bit about why you wanted to be in NAMI's first book and what you hope people get from it while we wait for Sharita to sort her tech.
So, how much time do I have?
Let's say a solid 10, not a tight 10. A solid 10 minutes. Let's
Solid
go.
10. Okay. All right. Well, there was so much about the invitation to be a part of this book that I jumped on it. One, because you asked me to, and I was really impressed with that you even considered me, and that was after we were doing the Medical Minds podcast. And you said, "Hey, I have a project. I haven't told nobody yet, but I think that you would be great for that." And I'm thinking, "Oh, I'm an insider. Yes, I want to be a part of that." But besides that, I have been a part of NAMI, and I just realized this for 10 years now. And in that, I started this journey when as a family in crisis, and I had no idea where to go, what to do. And all the places that I had gone to were not as friendly as I would like for it to be. And that's mostly to my culture. Okay. And so that's the thing that I was having a challenge with, is that I just didn't have nobody that I could really get information from. So when I got into NAMI and I learned from the family to family class, and eventually I was asked to do basics, and my whole world came together at that point, because the information in both of those classes handled both areas of my family that I was dealing with. I still had children in school that were trying to navigate through that process, but I also had children who were over the age of 18, and I didn't know what to do with that. So being a part of both of those helped out. Why I wanted to be a part of this book also, I went to state training a few years ago, and one of the trainers said to me that, she said, "I don't know what it is about you, but what I would like for you to do is represent all of us Black mothers, because there's so many of us that need the help and we're not sure where to go." And she said there was something about you. So I was charged by her a few years ago. I never forgot that. I never forgot that. And so when the opportunity came and I realized the magnitude of this book and how many other families we would be able to assist without, actually having them come into the classroom, or maybe that was before we even did virtual, really. And so I wanted to be able to say my story and offer hope and help, that everyone can get the same type of help. The results might be different, but you can still get the help. And so I've made this my mission to help families. It doesn't matter what your nationality is. It doesn't matter. Family's family. And I want our voices to be heard, because the family has so much useful information, and we get overlooked all the time as to, we're the ones that are in the trenches.
As family members, are you saying? As
family members, as family members, as family members. So when a person is ill and they are released to the family, we're not given any instructions. We're not given any information, because they say, "Oh, that's HIPAA," or "We can't, that's client privilege and we can't give you that information." But yet you want me to be able to take care of that person. And so I felt helpless, and I wanted to not feel helpless anymore. I didn't want anyone else to feel helpless anymore. So knowing your passion for the book, knowing the curriculum that NAMI has, and the ability to reach so many people, I really leaped onto that. And so I'm appreciative of being a part of it. And I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. The book is selling really well, so your voice will help other people, Monique.
Yes.
So I want to encourage people to think about questions they might have for Monique and for me about this book, NAMI's next book, which we can talk about in the Q&A. Now I want to ask Sharita Cole Brown, who has written a remarkable book and has several great quotes in the book, just like Monique. I want to thank you, Sharita, for lending your voice to our shared project and how much I appreciate it. And I want to ask you, why did you want to be part of NAMI's first book? And what do you hope people get from this project?
The reason I really wanted to be a part of this project is I self-identify as a NAMI woman. I self-identify. I love being a part of NAMI. I love what NAMI does. It is so gratifying to even, when Frederick told me, do you want to do this? You can do this if you want to. Having been graced to do a video for NAMI, I'm like, this is wonderful to be able to talk. I briefly heard Monique talking about being able to speak and tell about some of the experience for Black parents. I had an opportunity in the video that I did for NAMI to talk about what it is like to be an African American woman with a mental health challenge who is living well. So I have a bipolar 1 diagnosis, which is considered to be one of the more severe of the mental health diagnoses. Now I'm going to shamelessly hold my book up, and this is Defying the Verdict, My Bipolar Life. It was thought, and this is why I wanted to be a part of this, because it was thought when I had a psychotic break as a senior in college that I would eventually have no quality of life, that I would need a caregiver, that maybe at this point in my life, I wouldn't even be here, because we know sometimes people with severe mental health challenges do not live as long. A therapist told my parents and myself that given the severity and frequency of my episodes by 22, it really looked like I wouldn't be married, I wouldn't finish college. The things that I was going to do, I wouldn't be able to do. And so I got married. My husband died when I was 31. I had a 6-month-old. I had a 19-month-old. I had a supportive, wonderful family. So I was very fortunate. And I have actually been living in recovery for about 30 years now. When I wrote the book in 2015, before it was published in 2018, that was when I sought out NAMI. And I found a family, I found a home. So when it was opened up to be a part of something that was talking about how mental health works and why it is important to be in a community, I thought, this is the place for me. I want to be in this book. I want people to understand that you can get help and that you can live well with a mental health diagnosis. Because unfortunately, given what we see in the media, especially for people who have severe mental health diagnoses, what we see is shooting. They shoot up schools, they shoot up this, they shoot. And we don't take into account that the truth is that people with mental health diagnoses are more often victims. They're not so often the victimizers. So for me, it is an honor to be a part of something that is called You Are Not Alone. because I think people need to be able to find themselves in this book. Ken, I haven't seen anything as exhaustive as what I have seen you put forth. And of course, this book is worthy of any awards, USA Today bestseller, which we have, but any awards which this book gets, this book deserves. I am so proud of this book. I recently did a keynote address, and I took my copy of this book. And when I finished speaking, I held my book up and I said, you need to go and buy this book.
Oh,
I am rah-rah for NAMI. I really do believe in what NAMI does. And I know for you to do this, for Jordan to do this, this is such a labor of love because people need what is inside the pages of this book.
well, thank you so much. And coming from you as a successful author, that means a lot to me because NAMI never had a book and I had never written a book. But once you get Jordan and a few other helpers and a team to build, you can create anything. And then you realize the wealth of generosity and altruism in our community. Everybody's paying it forward. Every single person in this book. The National Institute of Mental Health director, why should I participate in research? He's paying it forward. Andy Nierenberg, do I really have to take these meds forever? He's paying it forward. So, it's a beautiful project. And I'm so honored, Sharita and Monique, that you were both part of it. And I want to make sure that we open up questions for people, for either of you or for me about the book, about your experiences that we covered in the book. A lot was left on the cutting room floor, and that really pained me. That's why like two hands on my head. I was just, I can't believe I have to pick the best two quotes from Sharita and Monique, but we tried to because they were all so good. And that's why I say in the acknowledgments, the outtakes could be a beautiful book of its own because there was just so much material. There was so much material that we had that it was awful to cut. We would just struggle because the publisher doesn't want to pay for a 600-page book because then it has to be $42. No one will buy it. So it kept pressure on us. But I just want to thank you both for your generosity. I want to thank Jordan for everything. Jordan has been my co-pilot. When I asked Terry Brister if I could have a helper, she essentially said, would you like a Fulbright scholar who likes storytelling and editing? I'm like, yeah, how's that? You have one of them? She said, yeah, you already know it. It's Jordan Miller. I'm like, oh my God, let's go. So without her, we could not have done it. Certainly could not have done it at this quality and speed. But I just want to say how grateful I am to both of you. And thank you, Kate, for having us. You gave me words of encouragement when I happened to be talking to you for some reason about the book. I know you have publishing in your bloodlines. And you were like, oh, you can do it, Ken. And you were one of the first people to encourage me because I had gotten ahead of my comfort level by realizing a dream. I wanted to write this book for about a decade, and I kept waiting for the right moment within NAMI and society and my own little life, and then it happened.
Yeah.
So let's take any questions you might have for Monique, for Sharita, and for me.
So a reminder to everyone, if you could put your questions in the chat or the Q&A. I'm not sure how it shows up on the right of your column, and we will try to raise them while we're waiting, because right now it appears that most people are just in awe. They haven't actually put questions, so
they're busy buying the book. It's, you can only do so much multitasking.
Yeah.
I was going to say, well, yeah, we're going to give you links and everything, but I will tell you that I do know that there are a number of people who are listening in who have already purchased the books.
Yeah.
Yes, and then there are other people who are going to be not only for the first time purchasing them, but I promise you, purchasing them for other people.
Yeah.
This is really a life-changing book. And here's somebody who
just
wrote
the book.
Yep.
Write a good review. If you don't like the book, take a vacation. Right? You don't need to express your unhappiness with the world.
No.
It's our book. We all own this book. So
Yes,
don't be
exactly.
missing our book unless you really, really, really don't like it.
And I will tell you, though, that there are, so I was sharing before we started, that there are a number of people who were sort of, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, you're telling me I should read this book. And to a person, they have been then telling other people about it. So it really is very different. It's very NAMI. And I said, it's practical, it's concise, it's evocative, it's real. It's just, and I'm amazed that you got it down to 400 pages. So
it wasn't pretty. It really
No.
wasn't pretty. Because you could do a book with the 2 people in this screen and the 3 people in Princeton and the 3 people in Denver, and that could be a whole book. But we had to go broader than that. We had to talk about co-occurring disorder, which not everybody's had. Had to make sure the family and the first person were equally loved up. They're critical elements of the NAMI strength. And so, it really was a battle on the word length. I'm glad you're picking that up. That was by far the hardest part. The interviews were a delight. I mean, one after another, just a delight. And then it's like, hey, cut 200 pages.
Yeah, well, you may remember that I when we were talking, my mother was an editor, a writer and an editor, and yes, I do have publishing in my family history, and I've watched the hair tearing and the tears and the oh no, how could I just gave birth to this? How could I cut its arms off and all of those things? Not that that's really a good metaphor, but just hold that thought because you started the process, right? So
yes,
there are.
I do want to mention before if we don't have a question, I want to talk about NAMI's next book. So I have gray hair, but I'm not going anywhere. NAMI's my second family. I'm not going anywhere, but I do have gray hair. So my protege and hopeful successor is writing NAMI's next book. You Are Not Alone, a Parent and Caregiver Guide. And Christine Crawford is interviewing teachers, parents, and kids. It's a book about people 0 to 18 and how to attend to them. So Monique, your work in NAMI Basics will surely be of interest to Christine Crawford. Christine is wonderful, and she is experiencing the anxiety and terror that I did.
I'm sure.
And once the book's out, then you just experience fatigue because you're in airplanes all across America. It's all good. It's a great privilege. But what NAMI's going to have is a series of books. I'm so proud of that. We have so much to offer people. I've had so many people say, I wish I had this book a decade ago.
Yes.
And, somebody said that in an Amazon review. I wish I had this book 9 years ago. It would help my family so much. This is what we wanted to do. We just wanted to make it hard for NAMI to be a well-kept secret. That book will come out in about a year, maybe a little longer. It's a lot of work to write a book. And she has young kids. My kids are in college, out of college, teaching English in Madrid. They're not like underfoot. She's got kids underfoot. So I'm very sympathetic to Dr. Christine Crawford and her endeavor to write the second NAMI book. NAMI gets the copyright, NAMI gets all the royalties. Yeah.
Ken, we're getting some losing you. We'll let him catch up. I think he's frozen. So while we're waiting for Ken to get back, I'm going to ask a couple of questions. Monique and Monique first, and then Cherie. Oh, Ken's back. Okay, he's not frozen anymore. Okay. I was just asking Monique to share sort of if she remembers how long it took her to find NAMI and what was it how did you find it?
I found NAMI was in 2013, I believe. Family was full swing in crisis, and me having 6 children at the time, I still had some that were in elementary, middle school, high school, and I think I had college by that point. And there was so much turmoil going on, and at the time, I did not know that one of them was having a psychotic episode, which at that point I need help. So the advocate who was helping me with my middle school and elementary students on how to process to get them through the 504 or whatever we needed to do. And she says, I have a class. It's a free class, and I think that you would be perfect for this class. And I was like, okay, what is it? At this time, I'll take anything. And she says, oh, it's NAMI. And as a matter of fact, it's meeting that night. I said, oh, okay, I'm going to go. And the class that I went to was class 3, and that was the one where they tell their story. So I am just smack right in the middle of NAMI, don't know anything about NAMI. But I sat there and listened to these other parents talk about what was going on with their children. And I did nothing but cry because I realized at that point, I wasn't the only one going through this. And that was when I felt I was not alone. And that was when I realized my community was there. So again, that was almost 10 years ago. And I haven't turned back since. Y'all have me for life, okay? So I'm not going anywhere. Maybe I shouldn't have said it to Kate because now
Oh, yeah.
She has you
No, but-
anyway, Monique, whether you say it or not.
No, wait just a second. At NAMI, we care about NAMI. That's why we stay with NAMI. But Ken, I mean, the choice of the title, "You Are Not Alone." I mean, that is so resonant to so many
It's
people.
so NAMI. I toyed around with other titles: The People's Guide to Mental Health, The Peer Guide to Mental Health. You really think about it, it has to be "You Are Not Alone." This is our core message.
Yes.
No matter where you are on your journey, family member or individual, even people who've lost family members who've died by suicide, you are not alone. That there are millions of people like you. And in trying to capture all that, it was incredibly and ridiculously ambitious. But I also felt that the title was critical. And so I didn't face any resistance inside NAMI or outside of NAMI. Everybody loved the title. And I had a person congratulate me who's written a book who said, "Thank God you don't have a terrible title. Do you know how many bad titles there are?" This is another writer who's a psychologist. He said, "There's so many terrible titles. You Are Not Alone is the perfect title for this book."
So we do have a question, but before I raise this question, I just wanted to mention that for me, and I've been with NAMI for a long time, even longer than Monique and Sharita, 26 years, and I do remember the sudden. I didn't have the advantage; we didn't have family to family, etc. So I got to teach the first class in Maryland, and so I'm reading the materials, and I'm sitting in the training, and I'm reading the materials, and my sister had been ill with schizophrenia for, by that time, 30 years, since she was 12. And for the first time, I saw that 1 in 100 people will develop schizophrenia in a year. And I'm like, I thought we were the only family, right? You are not alone that feeling. So there's a question here from a gentleman. Question. One of the biggest challenges in my life has been not just managing my symptoms, but also dealing with all the side effects and trials of different medications. Yeah. Does the book include those types of experience? What is it like to deal with treatments? And I would just ask from the viewpoint of lived experience, but also from the viewpoint of expertise. Could you answer that?
Yes. So the answer is yes, but there's not a chapter called "Dealing with Side Effects of Treatment." So Sharita was told, that she would not be a well person. That's a side effect of the mental health intervention. Kathleen Payne, who was misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder and actually had borderline personality disorder, dealt with kidney problems related to years of lithium. ECT gave cognitive limitation to Sasha Bisi, who is a baker in Austin, Texas, and created the Depressed Cake Shop. She formed her own cognitive remediation by reading her grandmother's, who she adored, recipes. Then she got into baking. Now she runs a big bakery with a lightning bolt in the logo to remind her that it was the side effects, not the help of ECT, that got her into baking. In the expert section, I asked Gail Dahman, how do you deal with antipsychotic medicines without gaining too much weight? I asked Eden Evans, how do I quit smoking without my symptoms getting worse? So one way to frame the book would have been all the people with anxiety disorders, all the people with depressive disorders, all the people with schizophrenia and psychotic disorders. I don't want to do that. I wanted to make it more of a tapestry, like the themes of recovery. I think they work across diagnoses, but there isn't a chapter called treatment problems per se, but I think many people acknowledge the limitations of their treatment. I interview a man, Mark DiGregorio, who has come to the conclusion that his family member won't get better. And she's been on clozapine and lives in a nursing home. And he says to me, I teach family to family not to make her better, but to make me better for her. Yes. Every single time I read that, I fill up with tears. I mean, this is the guts and glue of NAMI. It's a life of service to help other people. So the answer is yes, but this is not a classic textbook where SSRI withdrawal syndrome is covered. So you'll find some of this, but it's not in one specific chapter. If I was able to write a 700-page book, I would have done one on that, really, because I think it's important. This book does not treat medicines as magic. They are tools. Right. Psychotherapy is a tool. Peer leadership, love, these are all tools in people's journey. And so I'm not a psychiatrist who believes that the medicines are all magic. Psychotherapy, DBT saves lives. And I have several people who talk about medicines help me with my symptoms, but DBT gives me a life. That's a good quote from Kimberly Comer from Wisconsin. So I think there's enough of this, but obviously if you have a specific question, just send me an email, ken@nami.org. I can't give medical advice, but my job is to be in service to our community, and I'll answer your question to the best of my ability.
And I will also add that feel free to send it to connection@namimd.org, because what we do is also try to develop FAQs and fact sheets from the various questions that people will send.
Oh, good.
So that would be great. So both
are all imperfect, and they all have
my hand is up.
Yes, go ahead.
Ken, with one of the things that you just said that I think is very important, that's made a difference in my life, you used the word love. And this book is a labor of love. And I have never seen anybody get well alone. Now, I don't know. I always say maybe somebody has, and I don't know them, but I've never seen it. In my years, I've never seen anyone get well alone. You know, if we look at Monique and look at her child and the love that she poured into her child to help her child do better. If we look at Kate and we look at what happened with Kate, with her sister, or me, with my family and myself, because I am the person that people had to pour love into. Mm-hmm. And then once love has been poured into us, I'll speak for myself. Given the love that has been poured into me, because I am someone who is kin to a mental health challenge, now that I am doing better, I can actually pour love into other people.
Yeah.
So, wow. Bringing up the relationships and the love and the hope and all of that, someone asked a question and it sort of feeds into that other side of that, and that's the stigma and family and friends, and how the question is actually how did you deal with participating in the book? I would broaden it. I would broaden it and say, we all have had to speak out in public for the first time. We've all had to decide, can I use my sister's name? Can I show her picture? Do I have her permission? Mm-hmm. What about my other relatives who don't want to admit that this exists in my family. So it's not just for this book. Can you talk a little bit about sort of negotiating those kinds of things? Why don't we start with Monique, perhaps?
Oh, this is a great question because I actually had to go through that and wrestle with every single one of those that you asked, Kate, because when, as we know, in the African American community, we don't talk about this. And to say, I want to go public with this, but I don't want to I didn't want to put our business out there, but I've learned that transparency is key. So if I can be transparent with what's going on in my life, I am sure that there's going to be someone who's going to connect, someone who's going to say, I'm so grateful you did that. Here's what I'm going through. And I took the leap. But before I took the leap, I sat my family down and I asked them, I let them know what I wanted to do when it came to NAMI, because once I get to teaching, that took me to a whole different level. And then we had to do presentations. That took me to a whole different level. And I said, I would like to be able to be the family that can help other families, but I cannot do it if you guys won't give me permission. And each of them said, Mom, go for it. Go for it. We done already been through the worst. Just go for it. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what families we can help. And I got their blessing in order for me to do this, because you realize that, you can't just do it, because I didn't want a lawsuit even with my own family. So I didn't want to do that either. But and I know you laugh, Kate, being an attorney. So I had to think about that one. But once I was able to get that permission, the fear of that went away. And now what's amazing is that my children openly talk about what's going on with that. That's all of them across the board. And they're like, oh, I'm going to therapy, or I need this. And I hear them talking to other people. And it's almost like I'm hearing myself talk through them, because they've been brought up in this for 10 years. We talk about it all the time. My grandchildren, we're talking about it, where they now come and they say, so-and-so was having a problem at school. And I was telling them this, that, and the other. These are teenagers. And so I see that the transparency helped out, but I had to get that permission first. And then there's family members who still don't want to accept it, but I don't care. I said, this is my lived experience. Yes. You can tell me that it doesn't exist all you want, but you weren't in my house when heck was breaking loose in my home. Okay. So we understand that this worked, and that's what we're going with.
Wow. Sharita, how about you?
When Monique is talking about transparency, there is also authenticity. To me, those two things go hand in hand. Now, one of the things when I wrote my book was because I had already talked about my life before I talked about it for NAMI. So when I wrote my book, I cleared it. I vetted my book with a lawyer. And what he told me was, if the person is alive, then, you have to clear that with them. If somebody is deceased and you say something about them, nobody can sue you for that. So, and the other thing that I learned when I wrote my book was that you don't have to tell it all to tell the story. So you can be authentic, but you don't have to put out everybody's business and everything they've ever done. And, Monique and I, we have something in common, Monique. Not only are we African-American women, but we are Christian women. And so they want us to be strong and pray. And that's it. And there's so much more to it than be strong and pray. Right. There's so much more to it. And when we were talking about, putting our stories out there, I had a cousin who read my book, and this was really touching for me. I didn't know that I didn't even know, she's my cousin. I didn't even know that she had any issues with depression. I didn't know. So she called me and she said, Sharita, I thought I was the only one. Wow. And to have someone say that to you, I'm like, we have to do better because nobody
Yeah.
should think in the you know, that they're the only one. And that is why I'm holding this book up. That is why this is so important, Ken.
Yes.
Nobody should have to feel like they are the only one. Nobody should have to live under that level of stigma where I can't say anything. I just have to suffer. I just have to struggle. And so, you know, what I often say, especially in the Ending the Silence presentations that I am blessed to give, we have to create a culture where it's okay not to be okay. We have to create a culture where we're looking at one another and caring for one another. And I think this book is such a significant step in that direction.
Kate, I want to answer that question real quick. So we have two NAMI exemplars here, leaders in our community. I had a guy working on my deck at my house. And I said, John, you know, this deck's really helping me because I'm writing a book. And he said, what's it about? I tell him. He says, my buddy is in recovery. I think he wants to be in your book. I said, well, I want to talk to him about that. I want you to discuss it with your wife, discuss it with your 4-year-old. This book, not a secret. And he said, Ken, faith is what saved my life. AA doesn't even do faith anymore the way I want them to do it. And I want to be in this book to let people know it's okay to have faith and severe addiction. He's in the co-occurring chapter. So I said to him, it's a big step for a guy who's been in Opiate Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous, Alcohol Anonymous. It's a big step for you. Talk to your wife. Take 2 weeks and think about it. Think about it. No rush. The plane's flying. And he called me back 2 weeks later. I want you to interview me. It's important to me. I want to help other people. Again, this is a man who was homeless and using substances on Mass and Cass, which is the Center for Drug Use in Boston. He's a man who's not connected to NAMI. He's a man who wanted to share his story to help another person. And I gave him plenty of time to think about it. That's kind of how I approached everybody. And I'd hear a week later, I'm in. I want to do it. I've thought about it. I don't think I'm quite ready for this. That's beautiful. Fantastic. We'll catch you in 5 years when we do the next edition.
Wow, thank you. That was, I'm going to add a little, one thing that we see at NAMI is sort of and it's faster now, I will say, but a transformation as people reach out for help. They find NAMI, they take some classes or they come to a support group, and then they start going, well, I'm ready. I'm ready to teach the class, right, Monique? I'm ready to do a public presentation, right, Sharita? And but it's not always right away, and it's on your own schedule. But I will say that one thing we always teach people when we teach them to go out and tell their stories is we say, if you're going to give a presentation, yes, you have to be safe. You have to be, always be talking about where is your family? Where are you right now? And get this right. But also always allow at least an hour and a half for what I call the restroom and the parking lot conversations, right? You recognize those, right?
Yes.
They're the conversations where no one felt comfortable. And you're the first person. You brought it up. You're in a safe place, but not even in that room, not to raise their hand, but to follow you out into the hallway and say, could I talk to you? That doesn't happen as much as it used to, but it still happens. And that's what we are great at NAMI. And this takes us to the next level.
Exactly.
I'm so excited.
I have a little story. Karen Reynes, who's a Latina from Texas, said, Ken, when you open a door sharing your experience, almost everyone wants to walk through that door. And, I just think it's such a beautiful quote. And whether they take you to the parking lot or they catch you later, people want to share. They want to be unburdened with the idea that it's okay to talk about.
My husband has told me that I should not wear my NAMI pin to the grocery store, because people don't necessarily know what NAMI stands for, but they'll ask me and I'll mention what it is, and they will indeed follow me out to my car as I'm
Of course they
unloading my
will.
groceries. Yep. So it's just a wonderful thing, and thank you for doing this. This is so great. Any
Yeah.
other questions?
Thank you. And keep a couple books in your car, Kate. We got to move
Oh,
this. We got to move some product. This is our
and
book,
that's-
our royalties, our.
Okay, so we are going to make sure that everybody knows that the book is for sale. It is a great book, but it's also a great gift to start a conversation or to continue a conversation, frankly. If you can try to get the book within the next 2 weeks, as long as we have the capacity and you let us know that you have the book, and you can let us know some proof, like a photograph of it or something. We will be getting book plates signed. As long as we don't run out of them, we will get book plates signed by Ken, Monique, and Sharita, and we will mail it to you for you to put in front of your book. But you got to get it soon. Okay? Is that enough incentive?
I think so.
Yes, and she's put the in the chat. You'll see the order now link. It is just great. I have 5 copies sitting right here, and I know who's getting what for Christmas. So
Aren't you wonderful? Aren't you wonderful?
yes. There's a question: will there be a big print edition or an audio book version? Can you?
There is an audio book right now,
Yep.
and I tried out to read my own book, and they let me read the introduction, and then they said, "Yeah, Ken, we're good. We want a professional to read the actual book." So I think there's 5 or 6 ratings of the audio book. You can listen to it. If you're not a reader, you can listen to it. The book has also been resold in the United Kingdom. So there's a UK version. My tentative title for that is You Are Not Alone, comma, with Scones. That's the current UK title that I'm working on. But that book is coming out in February or March. Doesn't benefit me or NAMI, other than it's called the NAMI Guide to Mental Illness and Recovery there. So people across the pond will start to have these conversations. And when the Brits want to talk about it, it's time to talk about it.
It is.
I can say that from personal experience. So just a reminder, if you do purchase the book within the next 2 weeks, which would be 14 days from now, which would be the 29th, and you can send us by email or show us the proof, then send it to, sorry, Danielle, connection@namimd.org. Or would you like to add another email in there? Okay, we're going to go with connection@namimd.org. And we will make sure that as long as the book plate, sooner you get that to us, the longer we'll be sure that we will not run out of book plates. So, and how awesome, audiobooks are great too. Yes, we were so excited to see that. This is fantastic.
They're talking to a Spanish publisher to translate it into Spanish. That hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
But the ball is still moving. This is not over yet for NAMI or for our mission.
And I'm going to call out a few people there. I'm just not going to use their names, but I've been around NAMI for a long time. Ken was there way before me, but there's somebody else in the list. Hello, Carolyn, who was there when I got involved. When my mother dragged me kicking and screaming to a presentation, and I stood in the back with my arms across my chest and went, okay, but it's a wonderful organization, and this is a great book. On sale at Amazon for $17.89 right now. Wow. Okay.
And here's what I want to say about Amazon. This is all a game. If you like the book, write a review. It's our book.
Right.
Why is the book sold almost 9,000 copies on Amazon? Because the reviews are positive.
Exactly.
Got the first bad review today. Person didn't like the book. That's America, right?
Right.
We need to drown those voices out. And if you love the book, say why.
Yeah.
And if you don't love the book, it's no problem. Send me an email. Don't put it on Amazon.
A personal email, right, Ken?
Right? I don't make a nickel if we sell one more book or 100,000 books. This is
And the other
all a
thing
love gift from all the people in the book. Monique, Sharita, everyone in the book. This is all love paid forward.
Yes.
So think about it. If you buy through Amazon, consider taking 3 minutes to help us with the conversation.
Yeah, and the other is to just push it out on social media. Just let people know about it through your email. Once you've thought into it, and you're all NAMI people, let other people know about it, just like you let other people know about mental illness.
Yeah.
It's just great. And we did have a question: is it better to buy it through the NAMI website?
It all ends up in the same general area, even though I think Amazon is not great for society. Jeff Bezos' ex-wife gave NAMI $30 million, an unrestricted grant.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer anti-Amazon. I now view it with the ambivalence that's appropriate. If you buy it at your bookstore, NAMI gets this. It's all the same. The difference with Amazon is it's quick and reviews are posted. If you go to your bookstore, it's typically just for you. I want to support local bookstores because I love local bookstores. So you do what is best. There is no one best way to purchase this book. Anytime you buy a book, you're helping the mission, you're advancing the cause. It's our copyright. So the publisher is so happy. We've sold just under 20,000 books, and the publisher is over the moon about it. I was in a dinky little bookstore in Philly. Some of these book events are tiny. There's 22 people, and 8 of them were related to me. Right? I just want to make this clear. On a super rainy night, like 10 people bagged on us. The owner, and he said, "What's going on with your book?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Mental health books come here to die. We sold 2 of your books today. Like, what's happening?" And I said, "NAMI's got game, and that's all there is to it. You should stock some more of it." I got nothing to say other than he said, "What's happening? Because mental health books don't sell." And I'm like, "Well, this is different. This is real people, and it's a real organization that is designed to serve this important mission." So that's my little story. So if you buy it from Head House Books in Philadelphia, say hi to Richard. If you buy it from Amazon, consider leaving a positive review. If you don't like the book, send me an email, ken@nami.org, and I'll think about what you said, and I'll integrate that into the next book.
Or not. I did also want to mention something that Ken mentioned earlier and before we got on, and that is that the book is now on the bestseller list for USA Today.
We did well together. We did that. I can't do it. Jordan can't do it. It's a whole community effort. Nadine Lewis bought 10 books in Oklahoma City. This is what it's going to take. Like, if we want to continue to have NAMI be a household word, which is my meta goal, you got to get it in your local library. I'll tell you one cute story. So I'm in Princeton, New Jersey. A guy drove 2 hours to hang out with 3 people from the book in Princeton, New Jersey. And I say, "Mike, is this in your local library in Ocean County, New Jersey?" He said, "It's funny you should say that, Ken, because I went to the library and I said, 'You guys have this NAMI book, You Are Not Alone?' They said, 'Mike, we're way ahead of you. We just ordered 20 copies.
All right.
This is what needs to happen. It's all our book. We just need to decide how far to take it. And I think we can take it pretty far. If Mike is any example, or Richard in that little dinky bookstore in South Philly, what is happening? Like, mental health books come here to die. They sell murder mysteries. That's what sells. Murder mysteries. Who done it? Like, that's what people want to read." He said, "This is unbelievable." So anyway, thank you all for everything you've done. Thank you, Kate, for hosting this. Thank you, Danielle and Jordan, for being behind the scenes and making everything work. But mostly, thank you, Monique, and thank you, Sharita. Your wisdom will serve others.
Yeah, truly.
It has definitely been my pleasure.
Oh,
Yes, it's been a joy.
what a beautiful community we have. So let's go.
What a family. What a family.
It's a beautiful family. Yeah, it's a second family to me.
I agree. I agree. It's my family, and then there's NAMI. They already know. It's almost synonymous, actually. It's, what are you doing now? Oh, you doing a NAMI presentation? Oh, you doing a NAMI class? Are you doing a? Yep. They just know. I look. I got so many books. I don't know which book I'm supposed to be pulling out. I'm supposed to be in one of these classes. Supposed to be teaching something. I don't know. But
So Kate's going to send
enjoy
me an email. I need X number of book plates. I'll sign them and send them down. Sharita and Monique will sign them. They'll all go into your books. That'll be the only combination. That's the Maryland All-Stars book. Right? And
Correct.
think about that. The one in Princeton, New Jersey, is different people last night. So you got the Maryland All-Stars, and you're from NAMI, Maryland, so it's appropriate.
Yeah, we're ready, and we've already got 60 books on in our office that are waiting to be given with book plates to legislators and decision makers who we are not just showing up with, but have already talked to or are telling them about it and asking them if they want it.
This is next level up, Kate. See, you're next level up here. It's fantastic.
Okay, well, thank you all. And my gosh, and Jordan, you never showed your face. You deserve credit. If you're willing to show your face, that's fine. Here
Yes.
you are.
Hi,
Jordan.
Really.
Phenomenal lady.
Yeah, everyone. And I was lucky enough to just get to moderate. So thank you for the pleasure of doing this and for making this the finale of our 40th annual conference in NAMI, Maryland.
Kate, do you have a mic you can drop? You got to drop mic.
Wouldn't that be nice? Yes. What do we use? This? Well, except I do want to say that there is still one more thing for you all to take advantage of, which is that the plenary and all the workshops are over, but the virtual exhibit and resource hall is still available, and it will be open until 5 o'clock. So feel free to, once you go up to the funny hop in circle at the top, and you get back in, you can go to the resource section and find some of this stuff, including information about the book.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks again.
Everybody.
You're all wonderful.
Yay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.